القرآن حل ليالنا بالقيام أهلا أهلا بالصيام يا رمضان يا رمضان شهر الرحمة والغفران مرحب مرحب يا رمضان أهلا أهلا بالصيام You told me you were here for 30 days to shower us with mercy just like rain.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I'm going to introduce our wonderful coach, Rokshanara Chowdhury. She's a SEN parent coach who specializes in working with parents of children with additional needs. As a mum to children with additional needs herself, she understands the journey well and aspires to empower other mums to a similar journey to show up as the best version of themselves and support their children with their challenges. Welcome, Rokshanara.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for a lovely welcome. It's been amazing. This whole conference has been really amazing. It's been amazing being part of this team. And I'm really, really excited about today's session. Just before I start, I'm going to read a dua. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. So today's session, I'm going to focus on the power of a mother's dua. We have talked about unleashing our parenting potential as a theme of our conference this year, and so many speakers have spoken about many things that are going to support us in doing that. But sometimes we overlook something as simple as making dua, but we don't realize how powerful dua is. And dua is our, like, I used to grow up listening to our mothers, aunts saying things like dua is our superpower, it is our weapon against many things. But I never really understood it until I reflected upon it as an adult myself. Before I go, I'm going to share some personal stories about two women who really inspired me in their lifetime and continue to inspire me now. And but before I go there, I'm going to talk very briefly about some etiquettes of dua and times when duas are accepted. I'm sure we all know that, but reminders benefit the believers. So I'm going to quickly zoom through that before I go to my stories. So the etiquettes of duas. First of all, you need to make sincere intention. Yeah? And then you need to begin with the praise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and glorification of Him and send blessing to our Prophet. We end the dua in that regard as well, in this manner. And after that, you ask for forgiveness. And you don't have to do it, ask for forgiveness immediately afterwards, but you start it off with glorifying Allah and giving blessings to Allah. And once we've asked for forgiveness, and the reason why we ask for forgiveness, because we are human, we make mistakes, we are sinners, and every chance you get, you want to seek forgiveness, to purify your du'as. And then ask for what you want for yourself first before you ask. We often jump into wanting things for our children, for our mothers who are other family members, but the correct etiquette is actually ask for something for yourself first. We look after ourselves first so that we can be better parents to our children. We look after ourselves first so we can be better spouses to our partners. We look after ourselves, our well-being first, so that we can take care of our elderly parents, for example. Our Prophet ﷺ said, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you are certain Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant you what you want. We have to ask with certainty that the dua will be answered. No timid duas. Especially as mothers, we want amazing things for our children. And I remember doing a dua course a few years ago, and a young sheikh had taken an older sheikh around, I think it was New York, and he was telling the sheikh, look at these amazing apartments. And the older sheikh said to him, make dua for yourself. Go and make dua for yourself that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you, I'm paraphrasing by the way, gives you an apartment like that. So he made dua. After a little bit of time, the older sheikh said to the younger sheikh, so when you made dua, did you think you were going to get the apartment? And the younger sheikh said, no, I actually didn't think. And the older sheikh said to him, that is why you're not going to get it. And I know we can laugh about this and you know, we can joke about it even, but it's a very valid point. When we make dua, who are we asking? We are asking the Lord of the world, the person who can give anything. We don't know matter where we are in this world, what our circumstances are, who our children are, who our who our partners are. It doesn't matter what that situation is, but who are we asking? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He can make anything happen, you know. And it's really important, and this is something I'm going to talk to a lot, to make dua with conviction, knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, expecting that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will answer your du'as, expecting almost like as if it's happened. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, call upon me and I will respond to you. We hear this so often, but how do we internalize it? Especially as mothers. Because what happens to us is often we feel, who am I to ask? I'm nobody. I'm sinful, I make mistakes. I don't come from a long lineage of sheikhs. We often will hear stories about Ibrahim alayhi salam and how he made dua. There's so many Rabbana duas. I won't go into it because I'm aware of time. But even Hajar alayhi salam, when she was in the desert and she made dua for her son in the desert for water, she made it with a conviction, knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give her what she wants. But often we sometimes think, well, they were like, wives of prophets, they were prophets. We even think about our prophets now, we think, well, they were companions of the prophet, they were these amazing people. We forget that dua isn't just for the prophets. Dua isn't just for the wives of the prophets. Dua isn't just for the companions of the prophet. Dua was given to us as human beings. It is our superpower. It is our weapon against the world, and we need to remember that. We often lose sight of it when we let our insecurities about ourselves get in the way, and that impacts how we make dua. Because then when we're thinking, oh, I'm not worthy of Allah's mercy, I'm not worthy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala giving us this, even though I want it so much, who am I to ask? I get this. I have women, sisters coming to me who want so much for their children, but they themselves have insecurities about themselves. And that really impacts how they ask for their own children, even though they want so much for their children. So make dua with certainty, with conviction that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will answer your dua. And remember to ask only Allah. When we are in trouble, sometimes we pick up the phone and we speak to our moms. We pick up the phone, we're speaking to our best friends. We pick up the phone and we're calling the school like, I need this for my child, or But first, Sister Aisha mentioned it yesterday, I think. Yeah, yesterday. We ask Allah first. We get into the habit of asking Allah first, and then we take steps. We tie our camel, right? But it's important to remember we only ask from Allah first. And like I said before, we seek forgiveness. We also show gratitude. I prefer to do this towards the beginning of the dua, but there's no you don't have to do it at the beginning. You want a nicer house for yourself? You want a big, beautiful mansion? Whatever it is your dream dua, ask for it. But thank Allah for the roof that you have over your head right now. Thank Allah for the beautiful children that you have. You want them to be righteous? Yes, of course. You want them to be a hafiz, you want them to be a doctor, whatever it is that you want. But thank Allah, ashkur, for what you have now, because Allah says, when you are grateful, when you are thankful, He will increase you. Let's not forget that. Let's remember that. And we can so easily be heedless in our du'as, because we need, and that's important. That's the other point. My final point is make dua with full concentration, because du'as are not accepted from the heedless heart. Our du'as, we've got to do it with conviction, but we need to concentrate a lot of times us mothers, and I've had many sisters say to me, it's like, look, you know what, I've got a crying baby. I'm there, I've got a toddler. Trust me. I've got a crying baby. I've got to run the household. I've got a job. A lot happening. But this is just a short time you have with Allah. And you don't always have to, you make dua after each salah, but you can make dua outside of that, and take time in the morning when it's peaceful, when the children are asleep. Take time when the children are asleep at night, even, or even at school. Tahajjud. Make some time for yourself. Focus on your what you want to ask for, and ask. Who are you asking? The Lord of the world. There is nothing He can't give you. There is nothing that, like I said, there is nothing He can't give you. But don't do it in a passing way. Don't do it in a rushed way. Concentrate, focus, because your heart will be in it. And then your gratitude will be sincere. Your intention, everything will be sincere. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be listening to you. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I will always answer your du'as. He will either give it to you straight away, might delay it. And if He doesn't give you what you ask for, He will give you something better. That is the promise of our Lord. Let's not forget that. And moving on very quickly to times when du'as are answered. And this is a non-exhaustive list. And I can go on and on because this is one of my favorite topics. My favorite time for making dua, especially duas that I've curated and articulated, and I'm one that really likes to curate my duas, is tahajjud. Anybody who knows me well knows tahajjud is my most favorite dua. It's the third part of the night when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descends and asks the angels, what are my servants asking of me? And it is said that the dua that is made during the time of tahajjud is like an arrow that does not miss the mark. And I can talk to this for all of England for as long as you will listen to me about the many duas that I have made, and I've seen people around me make, and these duas come true. And tahajjud is by far my favorite salah for that reason. Okay. Another time, we all know this, but I'm going to remind you again. Another time salah is accepted is in sujood, during adhan, between adhan and iqama, immediately after wudu, whilst traveling, and Friday. This is an hour after Asr. We don't know exactly what time it is, but after Asr, at some point after Asr, that any dua you make will be accepted. And of course, it's raining now, while it's raining. Like I said, personally, I love tahajjud. It's my favorite. But take note of these times, because what I would suggest, and what she once said to me, was find a time that suits you. I mean, you don't have to pay tahajjud every day. It could be once a week. It could be just, even sujood. How many times a day do we make sujood? Quick duas around that time, but you making it consciously. Okay. And so that's very quickly, I've got run down through the etiquettes of dua and times when duas are answered. I really want to move on to some stories, like Sister Era mentioned yesterday, because we really learn a lot through stories. They can really make it make it real for us. And often, like I said earlier on, a lot of us, I have had many sisters come to me, and even I've been there myself, where they have felt that their duas can it be accepted, and the conviction gets affected. To make dua with conviction. I want to inspire you, motivate you to make dua with conviction, and to not fall into the trappings of making a heedless dua. And to do this, I'm going to talk about two women who inspired me in my lifetime, my mum and my sister. Sarah, would you be able to put on Are you able to put on the slide that I asked you to? I can read it off my notes, but are you there, Sarah? I can't hear.
Sorry, just give me a minute and I'll put it on. You can carry on talking because it's going to take minutes.
Okay, no, it's just that one of the reasons I am talking about my mum and my sister is because, like I said, many of the times, oftentimes we think that our prophet and his wives and the companions, they were, from their time, and they were amazing people. They were amazing believers, and how can we compare ourselves to them? How can we, ask in the way they possibly did, but and the belief that, does it really happen for us? Us mere mortals, mere, like, we're not from that time. But if you reflect, sisters, often you will see how du'as do come true. And today I'm, focusing on du'as of mother. I, as a mother myself, have many instances where I've made dua. And that is why I love tahajjud, where I've made dua and it's come true. But I'm not going to concentrate on that today because we'll go way over time. But today, I really, really wanted to concentrate on a part of the hadith that I came across not that long ago, actually, but I was aware of growing up. I'm going to quickly read through it because I don't want to delay it too much. So the hadith that is twisted, Sarah. Oh, we're gonna get there in a second now. Don't worry. I can quickly read it. You can have it in the screen as I read it, and I've got it in front of me anyway. So I'll just read it off my notebook. It's a hadith. So Abu Hurairah reported that the Messenger of Allah, peace be upon him, said, "Three supplications are answered without a doubt. Number one, the supplication of an oppressed person. Number two, the supplication of a traveler," which we did talk about, when I mentioned times when dua is answered. And number three, and the one that I'm focusing on today, is a supplication of a parent over his child. Yes, there you go. And like I said, duas can be the greatest act of worship that we offer in our lives. They are our legacy for our children. And today I hope to show you examples how it can be. And first of all, I'm going to talk about my mum. Sorry, you don't have to keep that on now if you don't want to. You can if you want to. Okay. So first of all, we'll talk about my mum very, very quickly. I just graduated from law school. I think I did a law degree and then went to law school. And I graduated, and my family, two of my siblings, my sister-in-law, children, and my mum, we all went to Umrah. It was an amazing experience. It was my first time going. So anybody who's been, and the first time you see the Kaaba, it's really, really, like, subhanallah, there are no words, and I am a wordsmith. I love words. There are no words to describe that feeling. So I remember going to Umrah with my mom, and I was like so excited. Mama, I have got to do Hajj. You've got to make dua for me to come do Hajj because your dua is going to be accepted. You make dua, mom. And I remember she made dua for me to do Hajj, and she said I will. And she always spoke about my late father, saying who did Hajj when he was much older, and he saw people elder than him who struggled to do Hajj, and he had always instilled in my older brothers and told my mom to teach us that we should do Hajj as young as we possibly can while we got health on our side. And mum had always encouraged that of us. But I was caught up with studies and whatnot. But when I went home, I thought, oh no, I want to come back. So she made dua for me. And we came back, and I got a job offer in the city of London. And my mom was from India, old school. She had a father who was used to work in the public field. He was a landlord, and he also had a government job. And it was like she was very much of the opinion that she grew up, girls don't work because it reflects badly on the family. She's very old school. I mean, I love my mom, but we don't always see eye to eye. And I really, really wanted to work because I'd studied hard, but I didn't want to do it without my mom's blessing, So I got my brothers on board. I had a chat with mom. After some discussions, she agreed, but one of her conditions was, now that I'm going to be working, earning my own living, she said, you want to go Hajj? That's fine, but nobody's going to pay for you. You're going to have to work hard, save, make savings. So every month, put some money aside and put a big sum aside. She had no expectations of me in terms of bills and whatnot. I lived with my mom. I can't deny that I was quite spoiled by my older siblings as well. I was the baby of my family as well. So it was just mom, me, and my brother. But my oldest brothers lived nearby. A couple of them lived across the road even. And so yeah, I did. I went worked in the city for a while, and I always wanted to go Hajj. I thought it was a really good idea to save up for Hajj, and if it made my mom happy and she gave me her blessings to go and work, because I really wanted to work, but you know how it is, you don't want to do it without the blessing of the elder in your elders in your family. And she had her uncertainties, but she came around. And so subhanallah, I did work, and about a year later I remember I went out with my friends, or I went out and came back on a weekend, and my older brother was sitting with my mom talking, and so he'd just come to visit her. So I walked in and I remember asking, my brother how he was doing, and he was like, I'm just telling mom I'd made the intention to go Hajj with your sister-in-law. Why don't you come along? And he was just saying it off the cuff. And I think he was interested in taking me along, but he wasn't sure if where I was at. My mom was like, you want to go. So this is a perfect opportunity. The only thing holding you back is the fact that you don't have a mahram. And he's now, you got your mahram going. And she was like, you don't know what your future holds. You can go with your husband later if you want, if when you get married, but you don't know what it holds, right? And I thought about it. And then I checked my savings, and guess what? Subhanallah, I had just the amount, in my right amount to go Hajj. At that time, I went in 2005, so it wasn't anywhere near as expensive as it is now. People have to save for a lot longer, and you've got to understand, like I said, I didn't have a huge amount of bills to pay. So my savings, subhanallah, it was just Allah's will. I thought there was a sign. And so I agreed to go. I paid the deposit. I was really excited. I took some time off work. At that time, I actually went for 5 weeks. Nowadays, everybody goes for 2-3 weeks, but the group that my brother was going with was for 5 weeks, and the added bonus was the sheikh that was going. His wife was my ustada when I was growing up, so I was really excited. I packed well in advance, paid for it, had saved up, and I took some unpaid leave, and then about a week before I was due to go, less than a week before, my mom suddenly got really, really unwell. Like, it was touch and go. And she woke up. She was very unwell. She woke up. And I remember a great auntie came to visit my mom. And she took me aside and she's like, you're going to leave her and you're going to go to Hajj like that? And I was worried anyway. And when she says, look, you've got youth on your side. You can go Hajj anytime. You don't know what's going to happen to your mom. What if you go and come back and she didn't say it, but it was there. And my girl auntie, she meant it with the best of intentions. And my mom's, it's a distant auntie, someone who lived locally, and she definitely meant well, but it made me think, oh my gosh, I'm such a bad daughter for even wanting to leave mama, even though I wanted to go to Hajj. And so I made the really difficult choice to not go. And I unpacked. And the day before I was due to go, my brother and his wife were going. My mom actually came back home, but she was still unwell. She needed a lot of support. But she was up, sitting up. And I remember she was sitting up and reciting the Quran, which she likes doing I still picture it, reciting the Quran in front of her dressing table. And she was like, what's going on? The day before Hajj, anyone knows a hustle, the day before Hajj, just a hustle and bustle. And she's like, where is your luggage? Where is everything? So I plucked up the courage to tell my mom, you know what? I really don't think I can do this right now. I'm going to go, inshallah. With your daughter, I'm going to go in the future. But you're so unwell. You were in hospital. I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can leave you. She looked at me like, what nonsense are you talking about? And she was having none of it, like absolutely none of it. She said, I made dua for you. And you think you look after me? Allah looks after me, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will put people in my life that will look after me. Get that luggage, get down here and pack her. And she was having none of it, like really having absolutely none of it. And I just thought I'm going to humor her. So I got my luggage. She was sitting in the dressing table, told me what to pack. It was really small luggage, packed very lightly. It didn't take long because she told me whatever you need, you can find over there anyway. Just take the basics, just get good footwear. And I like my books, so I'd already like read up on my books and everything and had all those books ready. So I packed. And then I was like, Mom, look, how can I leave you? I'm going to be physically there, but my heart is going to be with you. I'm going to be really worried about you. You're still having breathing difficulties sometimes. I had to do mathematics recitation on my mom at one point. So I was like, can you imagine? I was a primary carer. At that time, I'd left my work to look after my mom, although my brothers were around. And she was like, there's people, my sister-in-law lived across the road, but she had young kids. I did not want to leave that responsibility on her. My nieces had, their studies. As I was speaking to her, my niece niece who lived away, she called me, and she's like, Khala, I've got 2 weeks off work. I know you're going Hajj, so I'll come, but just let me know what I need to do. Da, 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 da. I'm like, subhanallah, in the midst of that conversation, I was like, well, that's 2 weeks. What about the rest of the 3 weeks? And my mom was like, see? And then my sister-in-law, is like, what are you talking about? I'm going to come and go. Don't worry about it. My other niece was at college. Like, Auntie, please, just tell me what medication Dadu needs when, So obviously I had to split up my responsibilities with different people. My brother was obviously around. And you know what? The next day, I was on the plane in my ihram with all the hajjis, and I thought I was having an out-of-body experience because I couldn't believe I was going. My mom said, and when I said to her, I said, Mom, I'm really concerned that it's going to be so hard for me that because I'm leaving you behind, I don't feel I can do it. She said, I know you can do it. I'm making dua, Allah gives you ease, and Allah will make it easy for you. She said it with so much conviction that there was no argument. And she's, and she, like, my mom is old school. She was like, what nonsense are you talking about? Like that kind of thing. And subhanallah, I did Hajj. In 2005, when I did Hajj, there was a flooding. I waded through, it wasn't as easy as easier as it is now. But I was in my early 20s. I remember we waded through knee-high water to do the stoning of the shaitan. And when we came back, I remember my brother and other people were saying, oh my gosh, there was flooding. We were concerned, it must have been so hard. And I remember thinking, no, actually, it wasn't. It was so easy. I mean, I don't know how I would do it at my age now, almost 20 years on, but giving away my age. But it was so easy. And I thought it would be so hard to leave my mom behind. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like my mom said, with conviction, she said to me, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will put people in my life who will take care of me. My niece came for 2 weeks. My other niece popped in and out. My sister-in-law came and went. My brother. There were plenty of people, but we often think it's me. Same way we look after our children, we think it has to be us. I was feeling like that towards my mom because I knew her medication off by heart. I knew exactly when she went to what appointment. I was on it, and I was scared something would be missed. What I didn't realize is while I was in Medina, my mom went back to hospital. My sibling didn't tell me, probably perhaps for the best, but she came back out again. But I still went to Hajj, and it was the only Hajj I did. I went back to Umrah when I got married as a wedding gift from my mom. Subhanallah, may Allah bless her. But I never went back to Hajj, and my mom was right. When my husband went to Hajj later on, my kids were very young, and there was nobody to look after them. I couldn't go. And I've never been Hajj. And I'm eternally grateful that my mom did what she did and made that dua. But she made dua, and it was almost instantaneous. While I was in conversation with her, she was telling me that people are going to, Allah's going to put people in my life to look after me. My niece was working. There was no guarantee that she was going to take 2 weeks off. I think she's listening today. Shalma, if you're listening, I'm talking about you. Like, she just took 2 weeks off, and it made a huge difference. My sister, I was going away with one sister-in-law, but another sister-in-law, she came and went. Now, my concern was she had young kids. I didn't want to put so much pressure on her, but between everybody, they managed it. And we think we do so much, but my mother's dua, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promises that He answers all our duas. And subhanAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did. She was such an inspiration, and I hope it inspires you too, sisters. And my mom, like, what? She was just like you and me. I would like to believe that my mom had never committed a sin, never made a mistake, but she was human. She wasn't like the wife of, she wasn't from the time of our Prophet. She was from my time, in my lifetime. And she made dua for me. She left that legacy for me. And to this day, I'm so grateful. She was an inspiration, and I hope her story inspires you to realize that any dua you make for your child will come true. If it doesn't, something better will come true. That you are worthy of making that dua, that you are good enough to make that dua for your child. You can ask for anything for your child, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give it to you if it is good for your child. And if He doesn't, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't give it to you, give you something better. Yeah. So that was my mom. And I'm aware of time, so I'm going to quickly mention about my sister. And it is a bit difficult. I think her daughters might be listening in as well today, so I hope it's not difficult for them, because sadly I lost my sister. It's the anniversary of her passing yesterday, so this is quite emotional for me, but I really wanted to share it because it is such an amazing story. My sister, she had 8 children. When her youngest was born, when he was 2 months old, I remember going and staying over at her house. And she was changing his clothes. I was sitting here, and she was like an L-shaped sofa. She was on the side, and I think I was watching TV or something. And she was changing my nephew, and she picked my nephew up, and she called out to me, and she said, "Do you know my son is going to take me to Jannah? He's going to be Hafid, and he's going to be an alim, and he's going to drag me to Jannah one day." And she said it with such conviction. Again, it's that conviction I wanted to talk about. And it was almost as if she could see my nephew as a Hafiz. Even though he was 2-month-old baby, she almost like talked back. I can remember it. She was smiling. She had a sparkle in her eyes. The eyes cranked up because she was really excited about the thought of her son being a Hafiz, And as we know, a Hafiz, when he enters Jannah, he takes his parents with him. So it was a dream of my sister's, and she made that dream into a dua. She didn't just dream about it, she made dua, and she would tell anybody who would listen. She said, "My son is going to take me to Jannah." Sadly, at the time, what I didn't know was my sister. I knew she was unwell. My sister was suffering from heart failure. It was long-standing, but I was only a teenager. After her last pregnancy, she had some complications, and then she ended up being on heart transplant list. Unfortunately, heart transplant was not found in time, and when my nephew was about 5.5 months old, my sister passed away. I was 15, and she had other children as well. It was a really tough time for everybody. Excuse. But my nephew grew up, and he obviously asked to ask about his mom, who wouldn't. And you couldn't talk about his mom and him without telling him that his mom had always wanted him to be a Hafiz. His sisters told me that, he'd ask. And so fast forward a few years, and his dad's looking for secondary school for him. We're in the UK, so he's about 10, 11 years old. And he himself takes the initiative and tells his dad, "Dad, please put me down for my name for madrasa. I would like to see if I can make my mom's dream dua come true." And his dad was like, nobody had pushed him towards in this direction. It's just, we just told him, his sisters told him about what what his mom had dreamed about for him. And his dad was like, "Are you sure?" He said, "Let's try it out, Dad." And he went. And subhanAllah, by the age 16, he completed his fifth. And I remember his dad, he led the Taraweeh, the mid Ramadan afterwards. And his dad was first in line. And his dad, I remember talking about it, calling me up and telling me, we talked about my sister and saying how proud she would be. At age 17, he was headhunted by mosques all around the world. I think it was in France he went and led Taraweeh there. 18, I think he went to Spain. And then, subhanAllah, he got admitted to a Medina University. And he graduated. During the pandemic, he was there, by the way. Like, we were all panicking in this country. He's there, and I was asking him, "How are you doing?" And he's there sending me pictures of our Nabi's, um, mosque and the dome and his laptop. Oh, I'm working away, khala, and I've got pictures. And subhanallah, like we're panicking in this country, and he's there in Medina. Eventually he did come to this country and stayed for a while, and he's gone back there. He's got such an amazing relationship with that amazing bond with Medina, with our Prophet's mosque, and he's there with his new bride, mashallah, living there, continuing his studies, and he is a sheikh. And this, I'm telling you this story, sisters, because my sister was just like you and me. She made dua. She never even got to see her dua manifest. She passed away. But that was the legacy she left behind. That is the power of a mother's dua. A dua that you make with conviction. Dua that, you follow the etiquette, but you don't make it heedlessly. You make it with conviction. When my sister, was picking my 2-month-old nephew up and telling me this son of hers was going to take her to Jannah, she didn't say, oh, yeah, he might, I'm hoping. No, she said, he's going to take me. She said it almost envisioning herself in Jannah with her son, who is a Hafiz. He's not just a Hafiz, he's an alim and a sheikh. He was an alim, he's a sheikh now. Imagine that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I will answer your call, or I will give you better. He delayed it for my sister. But that is the power of a mother's dua. You might not ever see. You make dua knowing that it will happen with that much conviction, knowing that it will happen, whether you see it in your lifetime or not, because who are you asking? You are asking the Lord of the world. He can make anything happen. My brother-in-law, my nieces didn't push my nephew to go to Islamic school from when he was really young. No, he chose that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put that in his heart. And many people attempt to do hifz, they don't complete it. He did it, subhanallah, mashallah. By the time he was 16, my brother-in-law very proudly phoned me up, telling me he, is top. It's really hard to get into Medina University. I know, and he was in one of the top of the class, and I'm not surprised. And I got to tell you this, my nephew is not one that, sometimes you think a child who grew up without a mother, his, biological mother, might have a chip on his shoulder, might have, have a very negative outlook of life. But subhanallah, no, my nephew is one of the most happy-go-lucky lads you will meet. He may be a sheikh, but, he has been stitches sometimes. I kid you not. But, and also he's very positive. He's looking forward. He's lost his mom. Obviously, that's sad. And he's very saddened by that. But he knows one day, he has that belief one day that he will meet his mom in the hereafter. And my sister's dua, it's still ongoing. Like I said, he is back in Medina. He's, furthering his studies, furthering his knowledge on the deen, and supporting people, helping people. He used to, before the pandemic, he used to take people to Umrah. Can you imagine what my nephew's life is like now? But it stemmed from that one dua. Obviously, my nephew, my brother-in-law, my nephew's older siblings, everybody, they made effort, and my nephew obviously makes effort now. But can you see the power of a mother's dua? Now, sisters, I want to take it to you. Are you mindful of your duas? I want to make it about you, because as sad as it is that I've lost my sister, my nephew lost his mom at a young age, and as sad as it is that I've lost my mother as well, they have left behind their legacies. What legacies are you going to leave behind, sisters? Do you feel worthy of it? Now, do you feel worthy of it? Now that I've told you these stories. Now, do you think you could curate some duas with conviction, and say it with conviction? Be specific. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has some really beautiful, beautiful names. Ashukur, Shafi, if you, and sisters, don't wait for calamity to hit you to turn to Allah. Because if that's the only time you turn to Allah, you're going to get more calamities. What you've got, whatever it is, every little thing, be grateful for it, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you more, because He promises us that. So you turn to Allah and make dua be something that you are motivated to do every day, inspired to do. And think about your children. What do you want for them? And I don't mean just, think about all the sessions we have had in this parenting conference this week. You know, everything, your worries, whether it be your worries about their identity, whether you worry about their, you know, their race, whether you worry about what their heart holds, how you're going to communicate with them, every single one of them, not just your worries, but your hopes, your dreams about them. What fun things do you want to do with them? What fun things do you want for them? What do you want for their future? Righteous spouses, good bonds with their siblings. You know, what do you want for their, you know, your grandchildren? These duas, they don't just, you know, they don't just, you know, you don't. It's not just your children; it's your children's children for generations to come. Those duas, as a mother, you know, it, it's so far-reaching. We don't see, we don't focus on it. We know, and sometimes we make dua very, like, yeah, we make it, but how aware are you of your duas? How conscious are you of your duas? How specific are you in your duas? Instead of like, yeah, you can ask for ease for your children, the best in this world for your children, and the best in the hereafter. But the more specific you are, can you imagine the legacy you can leave behind with your for your children? And if you've got a mother, if you've got parents, I've sadly lost both my parents, but if you've got parents, sisters, subhanallah, they are your easiest gateway to Jannah. You just have to look at them and you get reward of, look at them lovingly and you get the reward of Hajj. So you can imagine going to them. I remember growing up, my brothers, anytime they wanted something, Mom, make dua. I've got tests, and I've got, even me, like, you know, I don't have that now, but I'd like to be that for my children. You know, you know, few of the speakers spoke about communication. You maintain that communication with your children, your child will come to you and tell you, Mom, you know what, I'm worried about this. Can make dua for me, or you can choose to make dua for them. Mom, I really want this. I want this amazing Ferrari car. My son used to talk about it. Why not make dua for your child for that? It doesn't have to be just they want them to be academic or ward them off evil, you know, bad things. Yeah, it can be anything. You know, like their academics, their future, their social life, their emotional well-being, every aspect of it. Why can't, you know, take time out and curate some du'as specific, and knowing who you're asking. Think about the names of Allah that applies. You want beautiful things for the future. Ask the one who is the most generous. SubhanAllah, sisters, there is no limit. Dua will unleash your parenting potential, but you have to do it consciously. Dua is the biggest weapon us mothers have, even when our children are older and we are worried about them, and we, you know, may lines of communication. I think one of the speakers mentioned, I think it was, but all the speakers mentioned, actually, Fatima, also the Fatima mentioned it, you know, Dr. Rania mentioned it as well. Even when you having struggling with the communication with your children and you can't get through to them, make dua. You still have that, because you have the communication to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He can make anything happen. Sometimes your children are going through trials, there is a calamity, and they are not listening to you, but you have dua. And but then I say that, but don't wait for a calamity to make dua. Make dua every day, sis. Make dua for everyday thing. Ease, even, you know, for your children to come home happily from school. You know, for them to wake up readily. Whatever you want, sis, make dua. But know that as a mother, as a parent, and I know there's brothers listening as well, but I've been mentioning sisters, but as a parent, your dua, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and He said, 3 supplications are answered without a doubt. There is no doubt. Our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, there is no doubt that your supplication will be answered. But if you follow the etiquettes and you don't make dua heedlessly. And we often we do make intention, but our mind wanders. So take time out, sisters. Take time out. You know, make it a habit. Even if it's after Fajr, take some time out if it's a bit more peaceful. Make a note of it. I'm a note taker. I like that. But whatever works for you. But tell me, sisters, what would you like to do? Now, do you believe you can do it? And do you have any concerns? Do you have anything that limits you from those sincere du'as for your children.
مرحب مرحب يا رمضان أحيي قلوبنا بالقرآن